and develop innovative practice, new ways of working with technology in their curriculum, in their courses. Courses, right? That's your curriculum unit is built around the course, so we will be working with staff to try to develop that. I've moved away from that because I've been doing that forever, and I kind of moved beyond it. If I speak too fast, will you need to tell me, or throw something at me, or whatever, but make it clear to me that it's kind of, you're not getting it, okay? Before we start, however, if you're all staying around here, right? So, is that right? You're all staying in this area?
No.
No, where are you staying?
Hotel Stonecroft.
Some of them are around London Road, near Victoria Park,
Not far from
which is a bit
Victoria.
far, and some of them are in Ibis, which is not very far.
Okay, Victoria, so you're near Victoria Park.
Yeah.
London Road, lots of restaurants.
Yeah.
So like that's a great place to eat on each evening, and also some good coffee shops, and also some good bars. Okay, so that area is great. If you're kind of coming from here and you want to go and get some food, this is the campus map. So we're here, we're in number 40. This road here, Narborough Road, that road there, has got a lot of restaurants on it, cafes, bars, that kind of thing. So this road here, Rawlinston Gate, so we're there, just walk down. The big sports centre, you might have seen the big sports centre, that's there. So that road there has got a lot of bars on it, coffee shops, and that road there, Narborough Road, lots of places to eat there. Okay, so that's my travel agent bit for you done.
It's very important, thank you. And we have that map on university website. What I will do, I might actually send it to all.
Yeah. Yeah. So where you are, London Road is kind of over that bit over there. Okay. So you're over there. Right. What am I talking about? I want to pick up, if I can, just on, I guess, bits of this slide. I just want to give my research, my practice, my work really is on education policy, the political economics of higher education, the changes that are happening to higher education, because there have been some very significant changes in England since 2009, some radical changes in England since 2009. I want to pick up on those a little bit to show how we are trying to, or how the government, or two successive governments, are trying to effectively create a more competitive market. And then, because everything that we talk about in this current week, in terms of innovations, in terms of what we're doing with students, in terms of how academic staff are changing their curricula, it's all being driven by policy, pretty much. So there's a real push towards value for money, towards efficiency, towards competition, and the competition is between institutions, but it's also between subjects in institutions. And so engineering at De Montfort University, how is that relating to engineering at Nottingham Trent University, for instance? And the government would like to see a market, a competitive market, that means that students and their families are able to say, I want to go to Nottingham Trent for these reasons, because I get better value for money, I've got better facilities, I've got better my courses are better, and I don't want to go to Leicester, or I don't want to go to Middlesex, or I don't want to go to Liverpool because they're not as good. And so one of the issues is, how do we make a judgment about what's good? What are the criteria for measuring what is good? So I want to talk about that a little bit, so you've got a sense of that, if that helps. And it relates really to, on this slide, so where you've got the kind of the increased competitiveness of these Belarusian universities, really that's what the whole of the last 10 years of of English reform in higher education, all of the new policies, they're all based on that, increasing competitiveness. Right. And a lot of that then has come down to the government trying to, this issue of increasing competencies isn't, clearly for you, it's important in terms of IT. In terms of kind of English higher education, we're thinking about that for everyone, for people who teach English, maths, IT, history, all of it. What are their competencies to deliver that curriculum? Are they competent as teachers, effectively? So that's like really important. Those kind of aims of your project to map across to the aims of what's going on in higher education. Yeah. So this is really important too. So the stuff that Armagen was talking about earlier, in terms of these course design and teaching approaches, you will see all of those are embedded, they're all interconnected in the way in which the UK government is trying to measure what teachers do. So all of these things about how a course is being designed, what does assessment look like, and especially, really, really importantly, what does feedback look like to students? And also, what is student feedback to academics, to teachers? What does that look like? Because they're very, very interested in student feedback on courses in order to change those courses. So feedback is fundamental. So in this, these points are all in some of the slides I'm going to show you in a second. This is quite interesting as well, because you've been using Bloom's taxonomy of learning outcomes. When we're thinking about teacher training in higher education, in universities in England, they're using something called constructive alignment. I'll email Armagen some stuff, some handouts so you can see those. But they're using something called constructive alignment, which emerged from Australia. It's Australian. There's a guy called John Biggs who wrote a book about learning outcomes in higher education. So I'll forward this to Armagen. But effectively, this work that John Biggs did on aligning assessments to outcomes, that underpins everything I'm going to talk to you about now in terms of the way in which English higher education is being re-engineered, restructured, the way in which we're thinking about it becoming more competitive. Because John Biggs' work on alignment effectively underpins all of the questions we ask students. They're part of something called the National Student Survey. So every student gets asked, how good was the teaching? How good was the learning environment on your course? So those National Student Survey questions all come from this work in Australia. And all of those questions now feed into how we judge the quality of teaching and learning. So it's quite important, I think, for you to kind of have a look at that as well. It's very simple stuff, but it all interconnects. Let's get rid of that. So, I want to talk about, you've heard about this teaching excellence framework thing. In English higher education, in English universities, there are two big judgments that are made. Two big judgments that are made of academics. The first is the research excellence framework. Coffee's outside, a new coffee, I think, or lunch or something, they've just arrived. Sorry, Arm. So the first one is about research. Effectively, how good is your subject area at delivering research? And that research is about the outputs of things you've written, or the coding that you've come up with, the programming you've come up with, the things that are published. The second thing is about impact. So it's well, that's great, you've written this paper on artificial intelligence, but so what? Has anything changed because of it? And the third is, what does the environment look like? What does the culture look like inside which you are researching? Have you got PhD students? Have you attracted funding? Do you have seminar series? Are there a lot of projects going on? So there's all of that. So that the first one is about research. The second one is about